Welcome to the toilet paper era of the gun industry. It is nuts out there. I don't even remember the last time I bought ammo at a store. Before I get into it, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ding that bell so you get notified when we release a new video. And also, if you're not a member at full30.com, please go over and support us there. We have a channel there. It's under the same thing. It's under Range Tech. And this channel is completely supported by my business, rangetech.us. We are a training company. We do not sell the products that I'm about to recommend, but like I say, we do recommend it. So anyway, if you're not on full30.com, please go over there. Make sure to sign up and follow us there too. When you're done watching this video, please leave a comment below and let us know whether or not you like the format. I recently spent a bunch of time shooting and training with a federal firearms instructor, and this guy's currently certified. He trains federal agents, and before you're all like, going off on him, he is an excellent guy. Absolutely, totally the salt of the earth, totally pro-Constitution, just like every other law enforcement officer that I know. So if you hate law enforcement, including feds, you can get off the channel, don't really care. Anyway, I did this because I wanted to hear from him why he takes the approach that he does and what his main focus is on when he's training federal agents. They go up against a lot of like super crazy stuff that your normal law enforcement does not. Anyway, this approach to pistol and AR training is obviously it's tempered by his combat and his LE experience, which is really extensive. Anyway, he's got extensive experience with multiple high-risk operations overseas. His approach surprised me. Before we even went out, he proved his point by actually showing me some videos from YouTube from a former world champion shooter. And I'll post the links to those too so that you can have a look at them and make up your mind for yourself. But I hope that at the outset of all of this, that what you'll do is that you will go out and buy the Mantis X10. I am not making any money from it. I just recommend it. I think it's an excellent training tool. Anyway, like I said, these videos, they demonstrate the importance of the Mantis X products. So hang with me for a few seconds or a few minutes here as I try and qualify this whole thing. So anyway, to get into it, when I asked him what he focused agents on initially, what he said was that it's all about the trigger press, right? The trigger press, and not about sight alignment, not about grip, but those are obviously important. And he said, trigger control is everything. You can't hit diddly if you can't keep the firearm steady while pressing that trigger, whether it's fast or slow. So he also pointed out that most defensive shots are taken without actually using the sights. Now, that might seem crazy, and yes, there are some times where you have to. For example, the church shooting in Texas that happened a couple years ago. But most shots, they're more instinctive than aimed. This is what you call point shooting, okay? And this really speaks to how tuned your muscle memory needs to be. So think about that for a second. Most of these shootings, especially when you watch all these police shootings, they're just a split second and then the fight is on. So anyway, consider the following. if you can take a sight picture but not hold the weapon on target while pressing the trigger, what good is that? Just think about that for a second, okay? If you can't hold that pistol on and pull that trigger without pulling it off to the side, dipping it, coming up, doing any number of things. And if you can gain a good grip and a good sight picture, but not keep the gun steady and on target while pressing the trigger, how's that gonna work? You're literally pulling the gun off of the target, the weapon off the target, every single time that you shoot. And you might say, oh, the bullet's out of the gun beforehand. Well, it's not. If you're pulling that trigger and you're pulling that gun off the trigger before that you hit that wall and actually discharge that round, you're not actually staying on that target to make that accurate shot that you need to do. So anyway, I said to him, that's fine, and I agree, but currently there's no ammo, or at least none on the shelves, not much available to the public. And you got guys that are ripping everybody off. I asked him again what he thought gun owners should be doing to train now. And his suggestion was the Mantis X system, which I've already brought up. So anyway, I reached out to a buddy of mine who is the head of concealedcarry.com. And through him, I was able to get in contact with Mantis X products, and I ordered the Mantis X10 system. I decided to go with that one because I like the quick attachment system with it over the screw type system on the lower end models. Anyway, I placed an order with them, and I had that thing in my hands, I think, in under 4 days. And it arrived, it's this tiny little box with this even tinier little gadget in it, and it came charged up. So right away I took out one of my pistols, my combat pistol, and I threw it on there, and I started doing some dry fire practice at home, safe direction and so on. Then actually my son and I had a little bit of a competition, just dry fire competition, to see who could get the highest score on it, and he did really well. I guess my family is pretty blessed when it comes to being steady, unless you're like me right now where you've had like 1.5 monster drinks today. Not the healthiest thing for you, okay? Anyway, so I actually threw it on both my pistol and then an AR, and I did a bunch of dry fire practice with it at home, like I said. And as I stated in my blog review on this, that's on rangetech.us, you can't get away with anything with this. There's nothing that you can get past it. There's actually a recording that happens for a few milliseconds before and a few milliseconds after that picks up both your approach to coming on target and breaking that shot and the follow-up. When you start seeing the number and what you're doing wrong, you can actually deal with that, and you can deal with it very quickly. You can identify and warm up on a new pistol that you're going to carry for the day, for example, before you even take it out. It doesn't negate having to go out and do live fire practice, but it does make a huge difference. So anyway, go back 6 months, last fall, get out to our safe space, and as in clear backdrop with no one around for miles. This is a distinct possibility in Idaho. Usually the only thing you have going around you is deer or a few birds chirping or something like that. Sure enough, the numbers really did reflect the accuracy, and when we take a shot and we'd be off or out of that little group, you would see it in the numbers that came up on the Mantis. Yeah, it's reading it. 89.4. $97.3, nice shot. 91.5. And 93.5. But they also reflected some other interesting data that I was definitely not expecting to get out of this system. Anyway, we'll get back to that. So let's get back to this, why this is important. In the long run, dialing in your trigger press develops your foundational skills, which leads to accurate groups and the development of good muscle memory. Uh, this is the difference really between being, an Olympic class athlete and being your sort of humdrum kind of person, getting those reps in. And that's where the speed comes from, and it comes from naturally from doing that if you're training properly. But all right, so there's a lot of beginners out there. There's something like 6.2 million new gun owners, right, that have not had access to ammo, and they've never had somebody that's a proficient trainer work with them. And you might be asking if this thing's for you, or if I've made this thing sound like it's more for your super advanced shooter. The system includes what I call Mantis University. And what that is a series of steps in training that you can go through over 10 days to help yourself improve. And it cancel out bad habits that you've developed over time, and everybody does. And then it will show you in mini video tutorials how to correct the issue, and what way makes in a way that makes more sense than old school explanations that I've heard in the past. Basically, let me put it like this: it's like having an Olympic shooting coach in your range bag. You install it on whatever you're going to shoot for that day before you even load around in. You can tune up your shot. Just like doing dry fire practice for long range shooting, the same thing applies here. And you should be doing this before carrying any sidearm for the day. You should be doing this at least once a week or a couple of times a week. In short, I'm telling you, you need to train the muscle memory before you start carrying or shooting. And if you're switching guns, you'll see a huge difference in how well you shoot if you don't do this. So number one is it's developing that proper technique using the Mantis system. As we've now seen in multiple times in the past few years, it's speed and accuracy that count, right? They both count. It's not just speed. It's that first round on target that usually decides who wins, whether it's on the bad guy or on the good guy. Speed comes with time, it comes with repetition. It's a tool to allow you to, let's say, fine-tune your shooting, fine-tune your skills, which will save you time. It will save you ammo, which really doesn't exist right now. Really, this is the closest thing that you're going to find to a shortcut, I guess. There's some other unexpected benefits of this program as well, or of the program and of the Mantis X10 as well. It works on rifles, including precision rifles too. So if you want to dial in your trigger pull with that and make sure that you're holding everything steady, it'll work for that too. Just make sure you go into the settings, change it to the appropriate ones, and tell the system how you're mounting the Mantis to the rifle. That is very key to getting this thing to work. There was another thing we did. We took the time to shoot cold without the Mantis X prior. Then we took the X10 out. We dry fire practiced with it and then shot. The difference between in control was measurably different. Without taking that time to dry fire practice, initially, performance was way down. The second thing I found, and I found this really interesting, is that you could use this system to determine whether a trigger is working for you or whether a setup is working for you. If you're a well-developed shooter and you've got that pretty much dialed down, you could ascertain whether a precision rifle trigger is working for you or isn't, or maybe it's too light or too heavy or too scratchy or whatever. It's one way that you can measure out how well your trigger is letting you perform. For instance, going from a factory AR combat trigger to a Trigger Tech adjustable AR trigger or a diamond trigger netted around a 5% gain in trigger press performance. But it's interesting stuff when you stop and think about it. So, like in closing, let me relate something from long range shooting. This is something I tell students on every single course at rangetech.us here in the States and rangetech.ca in Canada. And that is that unless you get everything right, nothing is right. This shooting stuff is, how do I put this? It's an all or nothing kind of thing. Half-arsed doesn't cut it when you're in a gunfight. And even if it's a 5-yard shot, you might have to thread that needle between various potential victims. Things have to work like second nature. You absolutely have to train so that your worst day is better than the best day for your attacker.